What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Beaver Dash. Hold on, let me get myself centered here. We're both in unfavorable conditions, both back home for holidays. I'm back here in Philadelphia. Gus is back there in Colorado, living it up. Both got some snow. I'm sure you got some snow in Colorado, got some snow here in Pennsylvania. It's been cold, but not only are the 76ers on right now, not only is it freezing outside, not only am I a little bit tired because we're on a different time zone here, but I'm still here to talk about Beaver football, even though this is, folks, the last episode of Beaver Dash for the year. So let's close it out with a good one. How you doing, guys?
Heff, I'm doing all right. There's a lot to talk about today. I'm excited for this episode. Pretty mixed on it. I'm super excited. Like you said, NBA season's back. I know a lot of people watching this probably going to tune in and watch the future NBA 2021 champs Nuggets take on the Kings tonight. But we'll start with some Beaver football. Heff, before we get into it, man, it's crazy. This is our last one of the year. It's been a wild ride. Without further ado, what was your initial, what are your overall thoughts about that Oregon State, Arizona State game from this past week?
Before it even, when we found out we were going to play ASU, it was one of the more unfavorable matchups for us going into it. I thought it would be better just because Arizona State hasn't played as many games as us, COVID protocol, everything going wrong for them this season. And then they go out and they stomped Arizona 70-7. So that boosted them up with as much confidence as they needed to come into, Oregon State and just put a hurting on us, to be honest with you. It wasn't an awful game, but to end the season that way, I was really hoping for something a lot better than that.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. The thing that gets me, Heff, is this one was just so disappointing because what do we talk about the first 2 weeks of the season? We couldn't tackle anyone, right? Running all over us, can't stop a rush, save our lives. Cal, we really couldn't stop the run then too. Oregon looked like we kind of turned a corner, even though we didn't play great defensively. Oregon, they're Pac-12 champs, unfortunately. What can you say? They're a great team, and we played well in moments defensively in that game, and it looked up. We've been very streaky. And for it to end basically mirroring how it started is just so disappointing. I'm going to throw this stat at you. We gave up 46 points in the opposing QB, who is their best player, Jaden McDaniels. He is their best player, Jaden Daniels, excuse me. He only had to throw the ball 15 times, and they put up 46 points. Their running back, Rachaad White, he went 13 carries, 158 yards and 13 carries. So he's literally averaging more than a first down every time he gets handed the ball. And this is what I was talking with one of my friends this week. We talked so much this whole time about how great Jamar was. We got to get Jamar cooking. Coach Smith has to do this. Jibbia has to do this. Blah, blah, blah. Chance Nolan, he has to do this. Nothing matters if our defense is as bad as they are. If our defense is going to give up 10 yards a carry, we're not going to win any games. I don't care who we're playing. But that's what we've been beating around this whole season, what we've been talking about. Really, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if Chance Nolan has a great game. It doesn't matter if Jamar has a great game. If our defense is as bad as it is, we are never going to be anything else except the laughing stock of the Pac-12.
Yeah, no, it doesn't help that. I mean, we'll get into it in this topic, but it doesn't help that we're losing guys too on this defense. Guys that are supposed to be the best players on our defense. They're gone. So where does Oregon State even take it if you have arguably last year was one of the best defensive players in all of college football, this year garnered enough, attention from other Pac-12 schools to be double teamed, to get silenced in most of the games, which isn't great, but it shows that he's a player of that caliber, that he deserves that attention. But even him taking away attention from opposing offensive lines, like the rest of the defense just couldn't step it up, whether it was in the front line or the secondary. It seemed as a collective, the whole defense wasn't there. Some of them were there, like sometimes the secondary would be there, sometimes the defensive line would be there, but it was never in sync, never both of them kind of at the same time. It was always one part of the defense seemed like they were really going strong, and then the other half of the defense just looked like they were not even there to play the game.
Well, Heff, I remember vividly we talked about before that Washington State game, we talked about the keys to this season. And I remember one thing you brought up is that we need to play complete football games, right? We need to play 4 quarters on offense and defense. Because we talked about last season, we lost a ton of games where we played a really solid 3 quarters, gave up in the 4th. Or our offense came to play for a whole game, but our defense only played 1 quarter. I think what you're saying is basically that goal was not met because we did not put it together. And even times when some of the defense put it together, the other parts of the defense did not. I really don't think, except that Oregon game, second half, I don't think our linebackers, our defensive backs, our defensive line were all firing on all cylinders at the same time. It looked like there were certain guys who showed up to play and some guys who didn't. One guy, I will tell you, who came to play every single game this season was Avery Roberts, and he made a name for himself. I believe he led the Pac-12 in tackles. Yeah, he did lead the Pac-12 in tackles. He had 69 tackles for us, which is just insane. In 7 games, basically 10 tackles a game. He had that 20 tackle performance against Utah when we were shorthanded. He showed up to play, but what about Hamilcar? I know he's getting double teamed. I know this, but what we said beginning of the season, first round pick. And I guess this is a good transition into it. Yesterday he declared he's going into the NFL draft. I guess what is your overall thoughts on that?
I mean, good for him. I love to see Beavers in the NFL. Hodgins and Luton last year, even the alumni that we have that are old, like Chad Johnson, TJ Hushmanzada, just Brandel last year too from our offensive line. Guys like that, I love seeing Beavers in the NFL, so I'm happy for him. But the way he left Oregon State leaves me, with a sour taste in my mouth because I was expecting a lot more out of him this season. And we talked about him before the season started. He's pretty much one of our, claim to fame when we came in here to Beaver Dash was Hamilcar Rashed Jr., one of the best defensive players in all of college football, and we have him. But and like you said, and like I said, he garnered a lot of attention. A lot of offenses knew how to keep him away from the quarterback, and keep him from making all those big plays that he did the year before. But if you're a big time player, you figure it out. You figure out a way to still make an impact, even though they're throwing things at you. If they're going to throw a lot of things at you and you get stopped like that, how can you really translate that into the NFL where you're not going to be the top guy anymore? And then even if you do show out in the NFL and become one of those top guys, and then they start throwing NFL caliber deep or offensive schemes at you where they're keeping you away from those big plays that you could make in college, like what are you going to do? Which it's just the way, like I said, the way he left Oregon State kind of hurts. It kind of seemed like he was more focused on where his future was going, which more power to him. Obviously, there's a lot of people in his corner that, he wants to go to the NFL. He wants to provide for his family. He wants to, fulfill that dream. Like as he said in his leaving letter, this has been his dream since he was 5 years old, and I respect that. But there's focusing on your future and also at the same time focusing on the team that gave you all the opportunities that you had to get where you're at. So it's just a little sad to see him go that way.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I think Hamilcar Rashed Jr. last year he was one of very few bright spots, and so I don't want to take anything away from what he's done. He's been one of the best players, period, that I've seen here in my 4 years at Oregon State. But I think he hit the nail on the head. It's just sad because he came back here. He said in his last letter he came back for his senior year to win a Pac-12 championship for Oregon State, and obviously that didn't end up happening, and that's not nearly. He deserves some of the blame. Everyone deserves some of the blame. He is no more responsible than anyone else for that. The fact that we underperformed by many metrics this season. But it just hurts because last year he was just played so much better, clearly. So it sucks. I'm sure he wishes he could have gone out on a brighter note. I'm sure we both wish he would. But just to read you some stats to remind you how good this guy was last year. He had 62 tackles in 12 games, so over 5 tackles a game, and he had 14 sacks. So he's averaging over a sack a game, which is just, that's crazy numbers. He's he was getting to the quarterback at all times. This season, 23 total tackles, and really disappointing, he had 0 sacks this entire season. And obviously, teams are scheming to get around him. And it's obviously so much different when you're the focal point on the defense, when you're trying to get schemed out of games. So obviously, he's going to have lesser numbers. I didn't expect 0 sacks, but with that being said, I don't know. But I hope his draft stock isn't too down. I hope he can still go first couple rounds, first 3 rounds. I mean, he has an NFL body. He has NFL speed, and I think he deserves it. The other guy who declared for the draft yesterday was Nahshon Wright, defensive back for us. Not really a guy we talked about a whole lot this season. I guess, what did you think about him declaring?
I mean, another focal point of our secondary. It's just another guy that we're losing, and it's going to be tough to replace somebody like that. I mean, he's one of those guys that we didn't talk about a lot, but he still put in a lot of the work in that secondary alongside Jaden Grant. Tough. Like, I honestly, it's hard to come up with words for it. It's tough. The way that this season went and the way that we're losing those 2 really big key parts of our defense, it's just tough. And the same thing to him. I really wish him the best in the future. I love seeing Beavers go to the NFL, like I said. All the best to him. But when it comes to it, I'm here to talk about Beaver football and not Beavers in the NFL. That's just a big hit to this defense, and I don't see a bright spot in it. We're losing guys on a defense that's already pretty not stellar. You know what I'm saying? And, like, if we're losing some of our best guys, this defense, it's stock. If we're talking about stock, our defensive stock is going down the drain at the moment. Hopefully, we have guys step up next year. Maybe we get some transfers. Who knows? But as of now, the future isn't looking too bright for this defense.
Garrett, I do see in the chat, our boy Garrett, he's saying Hamilcar round 4. I think that's a good prediction. I could see him easily going 4th round. Maybe he can go up a little bit if he has a good showing at the combine. But Heff, yeah, I agree. I wish these guys nothing but the best. I hope they have long, illustrious careers in the NFL. It's going to hurt us, obviously, but I mean, they left their mark. And a guy like Avery Roberts, who we just said, probably in my opinion, he was the defensive player of the year for us. I'm sure he benefited so much from getting to see a guy like Rashad work over the last couple years, see a guy like Nahshon Wright work over the past couple years. So, I mean, although their stats may have been a little bit down this year, that doesn't tell the whole story. We have no idea what they were doing in the locker room as leaders, how they've helped other guys develop. So, you know what? I think both of us wish them nothing but the best, and we'll talk about the defense next year when it comes to it. But let's move on to our second topic, Heff, and I think this will be a fun one. Hopefully, Garrett, if you're in here, I'd love to hear your grades for the team as well. But, Heff, I think we could go around to each different facet of the team. We'll go quarterback, halfback, offensive line. Actually, let's not do offensive line. We'll go for quarterback, halfback, defense as a whole, and then coaching, and we'll give them a grade. So let's start with the quarterback position. What would you grade it this year?
As a whole, or are we doing both quarterbacks here?
As a whole, and then you can elaborate.
As a whole, a C. I give him a C. Solid C. I wouldn't go any lower than that because both Nolan and Jebbia, they showed flashes of what they could do for the Beavers. They didn't come out and wow everybody. They didn't come out and have people garnering their attention, being like, wow, look at this Oregon State QB tandem that they got going on here. And they weren't bad enough for people to say, wow, they're garbage. But it was somewhere in between. Like, Jebbia's second half against Oregon, like, that was tremendous football from that guy. Mm-hmm. But then again, he has a week like week 2 where he throws for 85 yards and has nothing else to show but riding Jamar Jefferson's coattails. So It's tough. And the same thing with Nolan. Stinks it up his first game, and then the next game he comes back and, he plays pretty decent. Even the guys that we talked to at Oregon State that we argued with for a while that Nolan just needed to get it going, they even agreed, like, okay, he got it going, and it's, a bright spot in the future for the quarterback position for Oregon State when you have 2 guys that they show potential. They just kind of don't have it there yet. It's not, like this. It's kind of like this. It's almost there, but they're not completely in there with the scheme, the system that Jonathan Smith has going. I think this year, and we said it many times, this year was going to be a year where we kind of have to see how things will go. It's an adjustment period, shortened season. Things were going to be tough. I didn't expect anybody on our team to come out and really play as great as they did. I didn't expect anybody in the Pac-12 for as late as we started to come out and blow everybody in the nation away. So I give them a C. I don't think I could go any higher just because they didn't do anything spectacular, but they did their job. They went out, they played QB, did as best as they could.
Yeah, I had him at a B minus, and I agree with your points. The thing is, I saw A+ football out of the quarterback position in the second half of the Ducks game. I saw A-, A-level football out of Chance Nolan in that Stanford game, and I saw some very good B+, A- in Chance Nolan's second half against Utah, but I saw literally D- F football too in that Washington game, the beginning of that Utah game. So the quarterback position is like this. It is so volatile for us, and what I really want next year is just consistency at that position. I want a guy like Jamar, where we know what we're going to get out of him. Even if Jamar isn't rushing for 200 yards, he's not going to fumble the ball. He's going to run hard every time. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Nolan or Gebbia. Gebbia more so than Nolan, but I don't know if Gebbia is going to come and he's come to the game prepared and he's going to put up these great numbers, or if he's going to look scared and nervous in the pocket every time. So I agree with that. I give him a solid C. They could be A-level. They've shown they can be F-level. So that's really the thing I say they need to – what we need if Beaver football is going to progress is more consistency out of that position. Let's go to the fun one. What are you grading the running back position this year?
A+. Oh, my God, dude. There's no other grade. I mean, the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the guy from Colorado is the one that had the most rushing yards this season. But, Jamar came out and did everything for this Beavers offense. Without Jamar, we don't even have 2 wins. We're 0-7, if we're being honest with you. If I'm being honest with you, if we're being honest with the fans out there, I'm sure all Beaver fans know it and all Pac-12 fans know that Jamar Jefferson was the face of Oregon State football this year. So I have to give him an A+. The dude went out there, and like I said, we weren't expecting anybody on this team to come out and be fantastic. We were expecting this team to come out and win games and be good, but we weren't expecting something like what Jamar did this season, and that was blowing everybody away. He literally blew everybody away with his play. It was one of those, it was type of play that you knew going into that week, regardless of who we were playing, that he was going to get his. There was no question in anybody's mind that Jamar Jefferson was going to go out there and play as well as he did, especially after those first 2 weeks. Even in the Oregon State-Oregon game, the announcer even said, it's going to be a long night for Jamar Jefferson. Boom, Jamar Jefferson, 82-yard touchdown run. He proved everybody that didn't think he could do good just because he went to Oregon State and wasn't very well known because he didn't play a lot his sophomore season because of injuries. He took every doubt that anybody gave him and just threw it out the window and was like, nah, screw that. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to play the game of football that I know how to play. And he played smash mouth football. He ran hard, ran fast, and did everything that you needed him to do. I literally had no complaints for that man this whole season. I've never had a bad thing to say about him, so that's why I'm giving him a big A+.
I'll push back a little. Don't get me wrong, he's by far the MVP. The only reason I'm going to give him an A, not an A+. The reason for that is literally nothing he can control, but he had COVID. He was out for a Utah game, came back the next week, wasn't quite himself because he had to deal with a new QB with Chance Nolan, And so his first 4 games was probably the best football I've seen anyone play at Oregon State in my entire 4 years here. And then he was COVID out for the last game, and then his last 2 games wasn't as great as those first 4. But the dude did everything for us. If he goes to the draft, I understand why. He's a certified NFL running back. He's gonna have a career there. I know he will. If he comes back, though, the great thing is I don't think he's maximized his potential because he could get a lot more involved in the passing game. There's a lot of different facets which he can improve on, but at the same time, he's NFL ready. So all the more power to him. I'm gonna check the chat right quick. Garrett's saying Jamar playing 11 games would be an All-American easy. I agree. Heff, I remember we came into the beginning of the season and we were talking about what we want to see out of guys like Jamar and Hamilcar. And I remember what we said about Jamar. We wanted him to be second team All Pac-12. and he went past that, right? He was first team all Pac-12, finished second in Pac-12 player of the year. If he doesn't get COVID, he probably wins it, right? The man did everything. Jamar, thank you for the great season. Hopefully you're back, but we all understand if you leave. Let's move on to maybe one that's not so fun for us, Heff. What are you grading the defense this year?
D-. And the only reason I'm not putting him at an F is because of that Oregon game. I think even though they gave up 38, not a good game when it comes to points allowed, but just the grit to go up against an offense that was originally ranked in the top 25, an explosive offense, an offense that was much better than Oregon's defense, coming from a team that has, their offense was known in the nation as an explosive, high-powered, fast-paced offense. And they came out and they did their job, man. Those late stops that they got in the fourth quarter, holding them at the goal line, like that is what we needed out of that team. Every other week, it just looked like they were confused. And like we said earlier in the first topic, it never seemed like one part of the defense was in sync with the other. It always seemed like the secondary was doing good, and then the defensive line just couldn't do anything. Or vice versa. It never was on the same page. I guess an F is kind of harsh. We've been harping on the defense all season, but I mean, when you have guys like Avery Roberts or Hamilcar Rashed Jr. or Jaden Grant and Nashawn Wright, like those are good players. They're Division I, Pac-12, Power 5 conference players for a reason. And the defense still is the main reason why our team is losing so many games. Yeah. So I can't commend a defense that can't step up in those moments that we need them to step up. And the fact that we're losing two guys and I'm already thinking about how our defense is going down the tubes, it just says a lot about the defense. And I can't blame it all on the players. I mean, we'll get to the coaches, obviously, but there's got to be something in there when it comes to coaching, because, I mean, coaching is the basic foundation of any team. Your players aren't going to play well if they're not coached well. So, I mean, it makes me feel like there's something with the coaches there, because there's no way that our players are bad. I don't think the players are bad because we've seen them play really well, but they can't bring it every game. Mm-hmm. And another reason I give them an F is just the countless games I had to watch dudes miss tackle after tackle after tackle. It was just absurd at some points. But then again, there was times where they showed really good defense, but, it was very rare, once in a blue moon type of thing. So bottom line, F. Got to give him an F.
I'm right there with you. The reason I'm giving him an FF, and you alluded, you said it, but when like you have that friend or something and like you like looking out for them, you want them to get good grades or whatever, and they're getting D's and F's, and you look at them and you're like, oh, well, he's not that smart anyway. Like, it hurt. Like, you obviously want him to do well, but like he's never been smart. And then you also have that one friend who's got A's in the past, he's got B's, and then all of a sudden you see him stop trying, he gets F's. It hurts you worse because he's not living up to his potential, right? And that's what it's like watching this defense, because it pisses me off when I watch them go against Oregon, a top 10 offense in the country, a top 10 team in the country, and we need a stop to have a chance to win, and we do it easily. They don't run the ball. They run it 3 times and don't get more than 2 yards per carry. And then you see them come out against a team like Stanford or Washington State or this last weekend against Arizona State, and they run it for over 10 yards a carry. It just makes me think that it's not talent. It's literally this team just doesn't try sometimes. We don't have enough intensity, and that's why it hurts. If it wasn't for Avery Roberts, I don't know where our defense would have been, because he literally was getting 15, 20 tackles almost every single game and was the only guy flying around the field. I did not see the intensity out of anyone else every single game. Like I said, people had moments, but that defense, it doesn't matter. I'm honestly sick about talking about quarterbacks in the future or talking about any of that, because until our defense can stop the other team from getting 400 yards every single game, we're not going to win. And I know we got one more topic left, but let's quickly give one last grade. Coach Smith, what are you giving him this year?
B+. I give him a B+. I would say last season I'd give him an A, just for the big step that he took from going 2-10 to 5-7. This year is kind of a setback. we both kind of said at the beginning of this when we started doing Beaver Dash that we weren't really going to put this season on Coach Smith because it was a shortened season, tougher season. But you got to look at teams like Colorado or Stanford, where Stanford was practicing in a park and then goes in and beats Washington. And then next week takes a bus from Seattle down to Corvallis and they beat Oregon State. Like teams like that face adversity, and you have to believe that it's not, just because the players felt like doing good. Their head coach definitely instilled into them, like, yeah, we're going through this, but we're going to play, and we're going to play hard. And I think this season, Coach Smith didn't do as good of a job as motivating his players as he could have. Granted, he did a lot of things well, especially with the offense. Mm-hmm. Could have done a lot better with the defense. And, I mean, everybody knows that. But I just don't think that he put a lot of fight into our players. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line. When you're the head coach, it's more than just X's and O's. And there's a lot of things you can't coach, but there's a lot of things that you can at least lead by example with. And that's being, a tough guy, a leader, showing your team that through adversity, we're going to go out and we're going to fight and we're going to play as hard as we can. And I just don't think that he did that every single week.
Well, yeah, I agree. I give him a B minus, but the reason for that is because I agree. I don't think progression is always linear, meaning we're not always going to have a better record than next, but our team, I think, is still moving in the right direction. Coach Smith puts us in a position to win every single year, every single game, which is more than what you can say about the past 3 years. It's getting better every single year. We could have won just about every game we played in this year. I truly believe that. There was not a game where I'm like, oh, they're just the better team. We really could have won. So I think next year, what I want to see out of Smith, I need to see out of Smith that it's not going to be we could have won. I want to see us actually starting to win a lot more of these games, And I guess that leads us right into our final topic. Garrett, also I see in the chat, dude, I do agree that F could be a bit harsh because that fourth quarter against the Ducks definitely moves them up a little bit. Best probably defensive quarter Oregon State's ever played. But regardless, F, what are your biggest questions for the future going forward for the Oregon State Beavers football team?
Just for the sake of time, I'm going to keep it quick and I'm going to keep it honest. My biggest question is, what can this team do to improve the defense? 2, what can this team do to improve the record? I mean, 2 very basic questions that any team is going to ask themselves, but, why make it complex? Look at what we really need, and it's defense and improving this record to keep going in the right direction. Like you said, Jonathan Smith keeps putting us in the right direction, but, you could keep walking in the right direction as much as you want, but if you're not going anywhere, if you don't have anywhere in mind that you want to go, you're not making any progress at all. Like, yeah, okay, we know that the treasure is this way, so we're just going to keep walking this way, but if we can't find the big X that marks the spot, we're never going to get anywhere. So those are my 2 biggest questions, just where this defense can go and how this team can improve their record.
Yeah, I think the defense is a big one. That's going to be a huge question mark. One thing I'm really curious about, and again, I don't think this is the most important question to the team or whatever, but one thing I think is going to be really interesting and intriguing from a fan perspective is who's going to be our starting quarterback next year. I think Chance Dolan, I think he's clearly shown he's the more talented one. I think he's shown he's more of a dual threat, but Jibbia played the better game this year. He played the best game of the year against Oregon this year. So, I mean, it's going to be Jibbia, it's going to be Nolan. We have another quarterback battle next year. It's going to be interesting to watch. And then secondly, I want to see if Coach Smith can take the next step. I no longer want to be this like cute team that's, oh, Oregon State, we're really competitive. They hang into games. They're in there. They're no longer the team you blow out. I don't want to be that cute team anymore that wins a couple games, a little upsets. I want to be above 500 and make a bowl game next year. So I think a lot of that falls on Coach Smith. I want to see if he can turn that team into a contending bowl team, But Heff, man, this has been quite the ride. I know we got Beaver Dash basketball coming up at the start of the new year, but this is our last one for football, Heff, and I will honestly say this has been, even though we couldn't go to a single game, this was honestly the most fun I had of any Oregon State football season. I've never followed the team more, and a lot of it is to you, my man, because it's been a great time doing this podcast with you, talking about the team. We both get to complain about it to each other, so it's been fun, man. So thank you for hosting with me.
Yeah. Honestly, not the season that I expected it to be. I mean, I said that we were going to go 5-2, and we do the inverse and go 2-5. But like you said, man, this has been fun. Shout out to Dash Sports for giving us this opportunity to get out here and actually show what we talk about. We complain about sports every day. Me and you are arguing every day about something stupid, but it's nice to have a platform to actually get out here and speak our minds about things that we care about. And then one of the things is Beaver football, and pretty soon we got Beaver basketball coming up soon. And I know that me and you, we're gonna get into some heated debates when it comes to Beaver basketball. But for the last time on Beaver Dash, I want to thank everybody that tunes in, all of our friends and all the people that we may not know that really like listening to this little spiel we got going on here. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming out, tuning in every week. Yeah, so I guess this is going to be the last send-off for Beaver Dash. I'll make it a good one. We have columns published exclusively at Sports Pack 12. You can find that at sportspack12.com or follow them on their social media at sportspack12. If you want to see more of this jibber jabber between me and Gus or any of our other fellow Dash Sports hosts, go to dashsports.tv or follow us on our social medias, which are Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram at DashSportsTV. Once again, I am Morgan Heffelfinger, and for the last time, I am Morgan Heffelfinger, sending it out with my man Gus Light here. Hopefully everybody else tunes into Beaver basketball, but until then, last day of Beaver Dash. It's been great. Adios, everyone.